where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
I want you to imagine you're going into really journalism or to be a private investigator, and you show up at this firm and you really tell them about your passion to be this private investigator, and one of the people who are interviewing you tells you advice to take your game to the next level, and he tells you, hey, I'd really like this, I really would like for you to take law courses. So today we're talking about really being a detective in the modern age. And this is really a result of, reading The Modern Detective by Tyler Maroney, but there's a lot of background to it. For those that don't know, this idea of a bookman. These are citizen journalist or investigative journalist, and really this idea of really being a journalist today should be thought of as easier than ever. I think one really like hard-hitting point I think was I looked into like what causes someone to be a world-class journalist, and essentially this meant that you were able to basically a lot of people were able to take action behind the information that you provided. And a lot of people took action behind information that you provided. So I think today that's definite. In terms of the bar now, the bar is very low as compared to 20 plus years ago. And in this particular one of the first things I read on investigative journalism was really it was about it turned out to be about mystery writers and what inspired them in general, and they were inspired by a variety of things, a spectrum all from real life mysteries that happened to them in terms of like paranormal mystery, all the way to literally just what's taking place in terms of seeing relatives die, childhood trauma, things like that, and really this element of foreigners coming from a foreign land, coming from a foreign place, war, all types of things. We're able to inspire this a lot of mystery writers. But I think the title of the book was so misleading that I didn't quite. I think it was literally it literally had I think investigators or private investigators on the title, and it was really about mystery writers. But in any case, it's very, very telling about where they come from. I hear a lot of writers in general. They come from really a different, like, poetry, and really this element of translating information from essentially globs of mess, and they get, they become poets, and essentially they become journalists. And I think that's a pretty solid career path for a lot of writers in general, including private investigator or investigators in general. But like a lot of what was wrote in that particular book was still helpful, and I'll try to talk a little bit about that too. And this is done in a series of stories, and really, the first story, one thing is mentioned is accurate, and that's like some kind of the idea of open intelligence, being very good at navigating open intelligence, or not open intelligence, but data, in terms of being good at navigating what's publicly available information. It's this particular platform is something that's used by investigative journalists, and this platform was made, I guess, to really help people find information about others. And the next one, they talk about the technology of thumb drives, how thumb drives are able to essentially just copy a computer with inserting this thumb drive, and it's definitely something in terms of in today's world, that power of really copying a computer, what that can do. In this particular case, they were they were trying to expose somebody for financial crimes or something like that. It was pretty it was cool. It was definitely cool. And this guy, I believe, this, in terms of investigative and becoming a private investigator, I think I really think about this is something brought to me by Whitney Webb, of like a plan of artificial intelligence being able to turn people into really essentially get rid of like the self-reliance, and this element of really helping to really creating artificial intelligence to get rid of self-reliance. This is literally like a stated plan somewhere, and when it comes down to movies, I think Wall-E, Wall-E showed it showed like humans were just they were just overweight and in flying chairs, and technology essentially made them useless, useless without it. And it's I think really this idea of journalism, at some point you really want to keep those, or you really want to find ways to work out a lot of essential skills involving journalism in terms of being a private journalist. And what makes me say that is really the next this next story is revolving around contacting people, of course, but also going into they interview somebody in a prison, some kind of prisoner or something like that, and it just really plays a point, like a lot of this stuff that we have to keep a lot of our skills sharp, especially when faced with technology, like like artificial intelligence right now is trying to become. I think it's very important. Of course, that idea of staying sharp was one of the main things. But really one thing that was pretty crazy was this idea of vetting someone to go into different companies, faking, I think there was like a CEO at like Yahoo who faked his resume, and it is so crazy. But I mean, it's real. It's real nowadays. It's a lot of it. Like you'd be surprised how far con men can get, and I take that as faking resumes, finding out people faking resumes, but also just the element of like gathering information from a lot of people. Of course, you don't want to break laws, and knowing laws is going to really be important. Of course, for this element of in journalism and private investigators in general, but really like being a good con man is like getting people pretty far, and it's insane, but it's true. It's very much true, and you see it every day. Like, people openly encouraging people to lie on resumes and things of that nature. I think it's people. You would be surprised about how many and how far you can get with a lie. Nobody knows nobody knows your history, but you can lie about it. It's really surprising about what you can lie about. I think one of the bosses that I had asked, like, hey, oh my goodness, you went to I went to Emory University, and they were like really like, I realized just how I could have lied and made that up until that point, because the boss called me in his office at some point, while I was working, and he asked me about this. But I realized, at some point, nobody asked for a diploma, and nobody called to check. And it's so simple, but it gets you really far in terms of lying, but also in terms of checking. You'd be surprised about how many people don't do the basic footwork and how far the basic footwork can get you. That does official work. This element of private detectives, they when it comes down to working across borders and connecting with people across borders, that's a tremendous thing for a lot of private eyes. You want to a lot of these guys are able to move across borders because they can they have the right relationships, and relationships seems to be really important. And it's very I think one of the situations, it comes up as basically a partnership is essentially formed between two detectives, and they go into a play, and they go into to meet this Grand Sheik, which is a spiritual leader of sorts, and this idea of a lot of cultural, a lot of things, a lot of cultural traits and habits are known by the other investigator. So that investigator takes lead, and it gets them further, of course, by knowing those customs, those traditions, and things of that nature. Very much noteworthy in terms of like moving across borders and the ability to move across borders. And that comes up in various places. Now, being able to navigate publicly available information and the basic footwork, don't underestimate like the power of being able to interview, and the power that basic interview questions could get you. A lot of this comes to basic relationship building between people, and you'd be surprised about how much information you can get in building, upon building a relationship. Definitely, social skills are among the top of really what I'm seeing with a lot of investigators. Period. And this element of relationship building and being able to really, at some point it got someone it got an investigator. An investigator was literally just asking for private information that shouldn't be publicly available. He was, in an international. I believe he was in I think he was either in India or Bangladesh or something. But just simply building that relationship, he was able to ask for information that should not be publicly available and get that from that person. I think it was some kind of hotel manager or something. And they provided that person with information. It's it almost like it's a superpower, and a lot of PIs should really view it as a superpower. And this element of really following the law, I open this up in terms of this being really key to skill building. Knowing the law, knowing how to navigate the law, being so important for a lot of these guys because, you need to know, or it's really important to know when you're breaking the law and when you're not breaking the law, because a lot of people, for some reason, or if a lot of people ask PIs to break the law, and there's an element of, hey, you have to understand that this is breaking the law when someone's hiring you, regardless of their emotional state. What they're asking of you, is it legal, is it illegal, and of course understanding the power in navigating that area is priceless. Also, this element of Alan Pinkerton and the laws of Pinkerton came up at some point. And I wasn't familiar at all with the Pinkerton Agency and Alan Pinkerton, but apparently he was a private investigator before private investigations were a thing, and he was known as kind of he was kind of a vigilante of sorts. And at some point Abraham Lincoln hired him and built a relationship with him, and he wasn't around, and he was really tore up about this idea of not being around when Lincoln was assassinated. But he like his or the outline in terms of the outline that was made regarding his agency, regarding his guidelines, being important in terms of ethics, right? Ethics and really following and upholding a standard for private investigators. I think it was really huge to learn about Pinkerton, and I'm sure I'm going to cover him in the future or him or Pinkerton or the agency in general. And like I said, he was a vigilante figure, and a lot of this, of course, in the time of Abraham Lincoln, a lot of things that are laws now weren't laws then. He was able to navigate that and kind of really, really set the precedence for this element of private investigations and private investigators in terms of really, really being a pioneer of sorts. At some point, I think, navigating this information led to really what that footwork, being able to do that minor footwork leading to tremendous I'm not going to say tremendous. I'll say more than what you'd expect in terms of the gains is pretty significant. The gains are pretty significant. For this particular, one of them for one of the situations, contractors were contractors had real incentive to corrupt politicians and get access to different projects and things of that nature. It's pretty they were able to basically track down a lot of this projects, of course, that are public projects in terms of it was I believe it was a juvenile prison, and that construction coming down to who got the work in terms of a lot of contractors would bid on these projects, and this contractor essentially bribed someone to get the contract, and it was worth it, to bribe, officials to get a contract like this, and definitely something I think about this from a few angles as someone who was kind of in the construction engineering field, but also someone who was looking at politicians now in terms of involving the renovation of society. Very huge to get a contract from people. And another thing that came up and that I really want to put out there is the oil spill by BP was a big thing. Probably, I'm not sure when exactly, but there was an oil spill by BP, and the FBI they investigated this right here, and they found that there was some kind of misuse in terms of BP was essentially able to, I'm not going to say BP, but that investigator, he found that somewhere down the line, a significant amount of money, I think it was $500,000 was lost. And that $500,000, of course, that didn't go to the contractors that were cleaning the oil spill. That didn't go to people who probably needed the money. It went to and went to people who knew how to hide money, and it was very, very, very telling in terms of one, how to really track this stuff and the importance of tracking this stuff in terms of the dollar amount. I think in this case they were like able to get it down to like the $1,000. It was some kind of single digit dollar or single. I'm not gonna say 1,000 or single digit $1,000. So it was like let's see, $142,000. It was more than that, but still that's getting it down to that precision, being precise. That's very much something that I think a lot of us need to be interested in, but also in terms of the renovation of society, there are good guys that that work in the government and the agencies, and they do. There are people who do good work. I think it's when we talk about the renovation of society, I think of like, hey, what can being precise about who's doing good and who's basically corrupted, and being more precise in this manner. And cases like this make me smile because the idea of coming, the FBI actually doing their job in a particular area, like that's very against a large corporation like BP is huge, huge for a lot of people. And maybe there was more funds, but either way, maybe there was more funds that this guy ignored, but either way, we know this particular thing for some reason was found, So even if, it's not a black or white issue with that one person, it could still be, it could still be a good thing. The next one, it's really this element of really finding out the power behind building relationships, but also I think the BBC was found to literally broadcast some kind of false reporting narrative around a particular company, and this company hired a private investigator to find out what's going on, or to find the details behind this. And even companies like BBC, they can broadcast something that's essentially forgery, and it was pretty bad in terms of what they were able to do, but also, just something to definitely look out for. These, I think we're more aware now. People with platforms aren't necessarily trustworthy, but even for BBC to go after somebody like that, or a company, a company like this, it's pretty huge. You expect this kind of smear campaign to go on across individuals, but that was this is I thought I was pretty shocked at the idea of this idea of coming at a clothing company that's pretty big with this element, or with this idea of misinformation, even though you're supposedly you're supposedly a documentary company, and it's very, very much something to look out for. Of course, like I said, the power in navigating public information, the power in being able and being familiar with publicly available information, but also the power of knowing laws, and navigating laws, because we can't know every law in every country, every state, you know what I'm saying? But when you go there and you're able to kind of and you know what to brush up on, it makes that tremendous difference. Very much something to look out for. I think in one situation, I think in India, anybody under I think it was anybody under the age of 14 wasn't able to work, and this is in Bangladesh. The age might have been different, but navigating that made a difference in terms of this, finding out this particular, exposing the BBC for whatever they, what they were doing. There's an investigator here that does really good work for unions, and finding out really the politics behind unions. A lot of apparently, like, unions, they're just looking for that next notch in their belt, not necessarily, there could be unions that don't really care about making an impact, but just having a notch and looking the part, definitely something to look out for in terms of a lot of these entities. Like, they'll broadcast one thing, but you're disappointed by the actuality of a lot of what actually takes place. And like a note, companies, or a note by this private investigators, companies act like people. They want to disclose as little information as possible, and it's powerful. Like the idea of them being forced to disclose information is powerful, and it's very much something that people need to be aware of, especially in cases like when it comes down to really what's happening with privacy now, in terms of the Google Play Store being kind of like it's the wild wild west in terms of a lot of our data nowadays, and them being forced to disclose information it's really powerful in terms of this element of, for instance, with data privacy by default, and that really, really ringing true to a lot of people, because I think that it doesn't. But in any case, that right there was a review of The Modern Detective by Tyler Mulroney. I'm your bookman for this report, Sleepy, and I hope to see you in hope to see you soon.